Hello everyone and welcome back to Wixo Season 2. We are now on the second episode of the series and yeah, the series it seems to be going pretty well so far. I just do want to say this at the start. Thank you guys all so much for the support on the last episode. It really has been very nice to see. I'm glad you guys are enjoying the series a lot, and also I did mention in the last episode quite a few times. If you guys have suggestions, please do comment them. I will be reiterating that here because I got a bunch of really great suggestions in the last episode. Some of them I will actually be implementing in this episode specifically. So yeah, if you guys do have any suggestions, once again, do feel free to comment them. I am very open to taking them in. But I'm going to do a very quick overview of the events in our last episode, and then we will get right into it. So we saw people everywhere. So that once again, the grey area doesn't necessarily mean there's no people there. The grey area symbolizes where people might be, but they are just simply hunter-gatherers. The white symbolizes where proper societies and, big groups are formed, more so where agriculture has emerged. We first saw this emerge over here in the Fertile Crescent, more specifically in northern Mesopotamia, and this sprouted out to form several cultures which have since been, sort of solidified into proper nations. We also saw it happen in China here in the very south, where farming spread up and multiple coastal farming kingdoms were set up. And finally, we saw it happen over here in two places in the Americas. Now, I'm sure these groups probably do know about each other. However, for the sake of it, we're going to say that these groups are somewhat isolated. And we are actually going to be seeing another new group pop up in this episode, but we will have to see where that is. And without further ado, let's begin. So, the first thing that I want to talk about is actually going to be a little bit of a split taking place over here in Europe. So, this country over here, this formed in the I believe it was the remnants of the Greek culture when that thing solidified into these guys down here. But this thing has a bit of a problem. More specifically, big differences. The reason this split away in the same thing is because they were united under the same ruler, the king. However, this country has since had a little bit of stability issues. It's been a couple generations, maybe 4 or 5 generations since this country formed, and things aren't going well. The cultural differences and just connection issues, as well as the fact that this area is being neglected. These guys, obviously, they're going to focus here, and they also, the people here kind of view themselves as better than these guys. These guys are sort of subjugated. So because of this, these guys are going to be breaking away. We have this large, we have this large pocket in the south go ahead and break away, and they actually form militia groups, and they push the proper armies up north, and this actually leads to another group breaking away over here. These guys, they actually do fight a little bit, and this is how this group of here cements its independence, spoiler alert. We have a huge battle taking place at a major town. I don't know if they'd be proper cities, so I'm just going to say town. There's a huge town right here. A huge battle takes place. We actually see a very strategic general be able to defeat the army of the purple team and push them back south. Eventually we see a stalemate happen here. So yeah, that is our little bit of a split taking place. The capital will actually be at that town, and these guys will have their capital here. Speaking of the orange team, I do want to focus on them a little bit. They take over the Rome areas, and they also continue their expansion. They have just lost some land, so they are going to try and get some back. They conquer a few tribes, and I guess now they feel a little bit better about themselves. Next up, moving over to Mesopotamia, these guys are very power hungry. Their main goal is to unite the former peoples under this religion, and to do this they now need to move over to the Mediterranean. One small problem: there are some rivals in the area. Over the last few decades, Egypt and I'm just going to call these guys Turkey because we don't really have a competitor for that, but we have seen these guys expand, and they have been invading these areas. So yeah, these guys have expanded into this region, and let's just say they have not been so nice to the peoples here. This religion has sort of been kicked out of these areas as they do not like it. It does not align with the values of these countries, and this is giving further reason for Mesopotamia to come in and be very aggressive, more specifically to these guys right over here. And spoiler alert, this is going to be our first big war. So we have Mesopotamia moving over. I might call it Iraq because Mesopotamia is kind of a slop name for a country here. We're going to call it Iraq because, you know, they're kind of in this region. So, Iraq moves over to the southern Turkish region, or I guess the right Turkish regions over here, and they start invading. And this is not amazing because while Turkey is, they are actually one of the richest countries because of trade. You can probably tell why. But they don't have the greatest military. And in terms of their rivalry with Iraq, Iraq has the strongest military in the world. They are the strongest military power. They aren't the strongest naval power, though. That would be Greece. But yeah, in terms of military, no. And it's not looking very well for Turkey. But then, very luckily, Egypt gets involved. Egypt knows that they are definitely going to be next because they understand the reason for this invasion, that religious thing. They've been doing the same thing. They've been persecuting the peoples. So they are also going to be joining in on this war. And very smartly, they actually move in and they kind of just dig in for a siege. They cut off the supply lines in order to flank these troops from behind. And this causes very big issues for these troops, forcing them to retreat. Thankfully for Iraq, though, with some pretty good strategy and some luck, they are actually able to break through the siege of the Egyptian forces, and they are able to conquer numerous defeats, pushing them further down south. This allows them to somewhat regain stability, although they are fighting a two-front war now, the first one ever, so that's interesting, I guess. But yeah, they are now working on pushing into Egypt. And unfortunately, many of the peoples here are not a big fan of Egypt because, you know, that you can convert them away from this religion. I don't know what you convert them to, I guess just saying, don't believe that anymore, believe our mythological values, I guess, because, you know, mythology kind of different to religion in some ways. That's what these countries would have, I guess. But yeah, the people, they rise up, and we actually have something that we had seen in Egypt, which I, you know, didn't mention. More and more people in this area are not so happy being under Egypt. That no, I just do want to mention it's not because they have this religion. It's just because they feel subjugated. They actually are interested in having their own state, but I guess now they're going to be ruled by Iraq if Iraq wins. Deefy not spoilers, but yeah, this happens, and at this point, Iraq's doing extremely well. The front lines do become stalemated. Egypt does have some naval stuff going on the coast. However, eventually with some terms coming in that are not so favorable to Egypt and Turkey. These two will be agreeing to peace terms, and in this treaty, we have Iraq going ahead and gaining this land. I'm also just going to expand it here a little bit because I think that's reasonable. And yeah, Iraq grows fairly large from this, and with this, we actually do have the establishment of them as an empire. So we have our first empire. Very nice. But now we should probably look at what else is going on because I don't just want to focus on this. There's other stuff going on. First of all, you remember this up here? Well, this was at the very end of the last episode, and the king who united this, his grandson, he is disappointed at his father. His father, who was king, he died, you know, maybe a couple decades ago. He didn't do anything, and he's very mad. He wants to, you know, relive the glory of them forming their country. And because of this, he's going to go on several conquests. He is aiming to conquer a bunch of the Black Sea coast. He moves along and very impressively, the kind of like quadruples the size of this country. And he is able to grow this country massively. And yeah, he's a very good general. That's one thing we're seeing. I have mentioned it a few times. At this point, generals, very powerful generals, they are taking storm and they are able to consolidate because what you've got a country that is able to bring about education and, you know, form generals who, you know, they're educated on military tactics against a bunch of tribes, and that is why we're able to see such rapid conquest. They even come up close to this country over here. Thankfully, though, they aren't interested in fighting them. Speaking of these guys, they actually have been working on trading. These guys, I do want to mention, they are very good friends with Greece. These guys and Greece are best pals. They have extremely similar values, of course, coming from that same heritage, and they are also big trading partners. These guys have also set up a few colonies. But now, with our expansion out of the way, we're going to be looking at some more exploration because I'm sure that that has been going on. Mostly the Mediterranean. With this trade coming about, a bunch of the coast has been explored. Even moving over here to Tunisia, all of this region of the Mediterranean has been explored, and who knows, we might even see some colonies pop up soon. Also in the Black Sea, we see further exploration over here. Not too much in this region because it's kind of like the Caucasus, but we do see Crimea be discovered and some parts of the Dnieper River, I believe. I hope I'm not saying the wrong river there. But yeah, this is our exploration. Do we see? Yeah, let's see Corsica as well. Corsica and a little bit of the French coast is taken too, and we may as well throw in Sardinia there too. But yeah, that is going to be it for the I don't know what to call this region. I was going to call it the Middle East, but I'm just going to refer to this as the Old World, um, Mediterranean region, I suppose. But now we're going to be focusing on China because China is the countries, they aren't having an amazing time. So we have this one, they expand, but then they get hit by a plague. This is yeah, this is not good because this country is already not too stable, but this plague essentially just collapses the country. We have this country breakaway in the north. Essentially, this is because they don't handle the plague well at all. We also have this very neon, which I don't like at all. That's better. There we go. I like that. This country breaks away in the south as well, and they kind of expand a little bit, and they kind of just take chunks out of this country, who is now very sad. In terms of capitals, I'm just going to pop them wherever. It doesn't really matter, to be fair. However, unlike this country, the other two are actually doing very well. This one in the north, they are very big on exploration, and due to this, we have them discovering a lot of things. They move up north, discover the Beijing-ish area, and also send ships out into parts of the Yellow Sea. Eventually, they even discover parts of the coast of Korea as well as Jeju Island down here in the south, just like so. In the south as well, this country is probably the one that's doing the best. They are able to actually convince a lot of regional clans down here to join up with them, and this allows them to expand while maintaining heavy stability, and they also fully conquer Hainan Island as well. And we've got a little bit of an empire going on. I don't know if these guys would be an empire, but they are certainly doing fairly well. Moving back up to the North Chinese country, we actually have them establish some colonies, and this is a very daring move because we're still at the point where long sea travel like this, not so amazing, so a colony like this, it could easily become unstable, but they are willing to take the risk. But now I am actually going to be doing a suggestion that I have seen quite a few people actually say in the comments. We are going to be having our Aboriginals form up. We're going to be having farming develop in Australia. So all along the Australian coast, these people probably migrated maybe from like Indonesia or something, or maybe even China. We have Aboriginals pop up along the coast with farming and some good stuff like that. Similar to what we saw with Native America in the last episode, we aren't going to be seeing any proper countries pop up, but this is definitely something we should keep our eye on, as, it's another region, so that's nice, I guess. These guys, they're just chilling. Speaking of America, however, we are now going to see our first American countries pop up. After a little bit more exploration and development, all that good stuff, we do see our first countries. So in the north, we have a sort of Mississippi Empire go ahead and form up. So these guys, this is actually a very large country. I would say it's very lacking in development though. It's large, but it's not strong. It's not very technologically advanced. I suppose it would probably be the most technologically advanced American country, but compared to the old world and China, no. And we also have something pop up over here in the south. We have this southern Mexican country pop up. I guess this can be Mayans or something, I'm not sure. But they also spread into the Yucatan areas. And finally, we have one more country go ahead and form up. We have this Yucatan tip country go ahead and form. These guys, they don't like these guys at all, so we may see some rivalry. Basically, the reason is the population of this area isn't very much, and when this country formed, it took away a bunch of people from this country because, I don't know, they just wanted to move there. And this country is now having some depopulation issues because of it, so yeah, very not good. This up here, I guess their capital can be where these rivers meet. And yeah, that is our first America update. I do want to do a little bit more exploration though. So with this big country up here, like consolidating, it is a lot easier for them to actually explore around. and they are able to explore a bunch of this region. They still don't know about these guys in the south, and we do see a little bit of expansion over here into this, I guess, deep South USA area, and they set up a colony over here in I believe this is barely South Carolina. I could be wrong though. Sorry, American viewers, I'm not too kept up on American state borders. But yeah, that is what we are going to see over here in America. Next up, moving back over to Europe, we are going to see a little bit more expansion and another country forming. So we see Greece. Greece is actually doing quite well. Like I said before, they are the #1 naval power. You could probably guess why. And they are going to be colonizing. They are going to be following in the roots of a certain orange country, and they are going to be setting up a colony over here in the southern tip of Italy. I'm sure these guys won't get very mad about that, but you know, what can they do? They're a lot weaker. And we also see them set one up over here near Egypt. This is actually in order to gain better access to this Egypt down here, and the reasoning for that is because they are good trading partners. Speaking of this Egypt, they continue expansion. But speaking of Egypt, they are still very salty, you know, reasonably so, about their war with Iraq. And with a little bit of Greek help, we are actually going to be seeing a rematch. Now, Turkey won't be getting involved this time because they got kind of destroyed last time and they don't really want to go through that again. But Egypt goes over to Greece and they're like, yo, give us money, we're going to go defeat these guys, or give us soldiers rather, and we'll give you money in return. And Greece is like, amazing. Even if they lose, we still get money. That's wonderful. So yeah, we'll give you I don't know, 20 battalions. That's like, I guess 20 Greek battalions would be 10,000 soldiers, let's say. A bit of an arbitrary number there. But yes, invasion. So we have Egypt launching an invasion into Iraq, quickly capturing all of Israel and Palestine, and then they continue to move further up. We have them doing a kind of encirclement maneuver over a few small cities over here. These are then captured, and this is probably the first instance we've seen this happen in battle. Actually, Egypt did do that up here, so I guess that's their thing. And this area, which, you know, they hate being these guys anyway, falls over to Egypt. And Egypt then goes over to Turkey, and they're like, if you join, we'll give you that land. Turkey's like, absolutely. And we see a deal be made where the land is split like this, and Turkey joins in on the war. For the first time since their conquests of northern Mesopotamia, Iraq is now fighting on home turf. We have the Egyptian forces continue to move down. However, eventually we do see a little bit of stagnation as Mesopotamia has significantly more people at this time than like the Egyptian or Greek areas. So Iraq is able to use that to their advantage to basically just throw meat shields, and they are actually able to push back, and they are able to reconquer this area. However, luckily, after this, they kind of just the fronts basically just die down, and this is very good for Egypt as they can't really do anything. So they go over to Iraq, they're like, peace, and then we won't fight anymore. And Iraq's like, fine, no, we hate this, but we can't really do anything. So, very successful for Egypt there. They get all of that back, and Iraq is now very mad. In fact, they're so mad that they're going to take it out on a bunch of nearby tribes, invading them and taking over this area. Speaking of this area, in fact, we are going to be seeing more exploration. We have this Gulf, the Persian Gulf area be explored, and this is interesting because this is getting us closer to areas like India. We do see Iraq set up a colony over here, so that's nice for them, I suppose. And I'm going to be doing, I think, one final event before I call that it for this episode, and that is we're going to be seeing a new country form, and said country is going to be forming up here in Crimea. This is essentially a refugee nation. Peoples who have been conquered here have fled, and they decide to set up this country, whose capital will be right there. I guess we'll see a little bit more exploration. But that is actually going to be it for this episode. I really hope you guys did enjoy. I'm glad that I could add some comment suggestions in. Once again, any more suggestions for this episode or for the future episodes on this episode, please do leave them. And yeah, I will see you guys in the next episode.